before we jump into the text itself, I want to acquaint you with some surprising aspects of the text. And that is that it has, all through it, authentication codes. And there is, in your Bible, an automatic security monitor. It watches over every single letter. It never wears out. Russ has been working faithfully for several thousand years. It has what I would consider the fingerprint signature of the author. And there is a thing called a signature. You and I think of it as a handwriting thing. There's also another kind of signature. You can tell certain stars. You can tell certain transmitters from a receiver by their signature. If you're a radio operator, and you're listening to Morse code, you often can tell who it is that's sending it to you because you know what the amateur radio guys call his fist. He has a style. You can sense the style and so forth. That's a signature. You can have a signature that's like your pen. You can also have a signature like a fingerprint. You can have a signature that might be a retinal scan. There are other ways that are unique to you that can be used for identification. There are aspects of this author that is distinctive enough that they can't be counterfeited. I'll show you. I want to show you those. It's non-compromisable in its design. Now, how many have noticed there's sevens in the Bible? Anybody doesn't have his hand up hasn't ever read the Bible, right? Okay. They occur in over 600 passages. Some of them are very overt, 7 of this and 7 of that. Some of them are structural. You have to notice that in a covenant there's 7 provisions, but they don't leap out at you unless you're looking for them. But you always notice there's 7. And some are even hidden that you really have to know what you're looking for. And I'm going to suggest to you that these underlying heptadic signatures, heptadic is a fancy word for 7, 7-fold signatures. Now I want you to imagine that you have this assignment. You've got a scratch pad in front of you. You don't have to literally do this, but imagine I was going to give you this assignment. I want you to draft up a family tree. And you can do it from fiction for this exercise. A family tree. Father, son, so forth. Okay? But what I want you to do when you're through filling out this assignment and turning it in, when you turn it in, I want the number of words that you've used to be divisible by 7 exactly. In other words, the number of words you've got, if divided by 7, has no remainder. 7 exactly. You understand what I'm saying? That means, by the way, if you're just doing this randomly, you've got 6 chances of losing and 1 of winning. Because for every group of numbers, only one group in 7 will be even. You follow me? Okay. I want the number of letters you use. If I count them all up, divide by 7, it comes out even. How many feel you could do it so far? You're giving up already? How many could do it with if just the words were the criteria? With English it's easy. You can fudge a word and you count them up and I need an extra word, you can fudge it in, right? But now the letters, that's a little tricky, right? You still could do it probably, but it takes a little more effort. See, you're adding constraints. In a random sense, if I've got two 7 constraints, 7 each, then I have only 1 chance in 49 of winning. You follow me? 7 squared. Okay. But I want the number of vowels and number of consonants also be divisible by 7. Getting a little pinched now, huh? A little tighter? Okay. I'm not through. I want the number of words that begin with a vowel divisible by 7. And then, of course, if everything else is met, then the consonants will follow. Okay. The number of words that occur more than once. Anybody still playing? Those that occur in more than one form divisible by 7. Only one form divisible by 7. The number of nouns shall be divisible by 7. Well, that doesn't sound so hard. Only 7 words will not be nouns. Whoops. Starting to pinch a little bit. Number of names shall be divisible by 7, and only 7 other kinds of nouns be permitted. The number of male names shall be 7. The number of generations. Now, you've probably guessed what I've done here. I want you to appreciate, though, how difficult it would be for you to do this by hand. Okay? This, of course, is the genealogy of Jesus Christ as found in the first 11 verses of Matthew. That's not all. These numbers happen to be taken from that group. And by the way, we're not talking about English, which is flexible. We're talking about Greek, where every verb has to meet 5 conditions. Not just past, present, future. That's just one of 5 different kinds of constraints on each verb in Greek. It's precise, which makes it very expressive, very, very scientific, but it also makes it very difficult to play games. It's in Greek. Now, it gets worse. Both Hebrew and Greek, they didn't have numbers. We are used to Arabic numbers in our culture. But both Greek and Hebrew used the letters for numbers. Each of the 22 letters in Hebrew and each of the 24 letters in Greek had a numerical value. This happens to be those. You don't have to memorize them. We're not going to have that kind of thing. But that means every word, if you take the letters, the value of those letters, each word has a value, a numerical value. Every sentence says, okay, the first 11 verses have a vocabulary of 72 words. The numerical value of those letters when added up is also a multiple of 7 exactly. It happens to add up to 42,364. But if you divide that by 7, it comes out even. That should make you uncomfortable. The likelihood of that happening is very small. If you take the groups of letters, each of those groups, as they're used in the vocabulary, also are exact multiple of 7. Think about the planning that had to go into that. So that the vocabulary using is also starting to be constrained. 7, each one 7, multiply by 7. Now, the remainder of chapter 1, now what I've told you so far, you may remember from learning the Bible in 24 hours, we use it several places just to get a warm-up and this sort of thing. But if you take the rest of chapter 1 in Matthew, there's 161 words left. They're also a multiple of 7. They have 105 different forms. That's a multiple of 7 exactly. The rest of the vocabulary, 77 words. That's also a multiple of 7, obviously. Within this chapter, the angel is going to speak. If you take the words of the angel, he has 28 words in his vocabulary. It's a multiple of 7 exactly. It has a geometrical value of that's a multiple of 7 exactly. There are 35 different forms he uses, and that's also a multiple of 7 exactly. And the geometrical value of those words are also a multiple of 7, okay? Always a multiple of 7. It's more complicated than this. I'm sparing you the fact that the angel speaks in rings, and there's encircling rings of 7 if you analyze the structure. But let's move on. In chapter 2, the childhood of Christ, the vocabulary is again 161 different words, multiple of 7. The number of letters in that chapter, this is all in the Greek, of course, multiple of 7 exactly, and there's the different forms are multiple of 7 exactly, and the values, again, geometrical values, are multiple of 7. That astounds me. It's one thing to play around with the number of words, even the letters, but to get the values to add up. It's analogous to my adding up the ages of everybody in this audience and summing it and coming out to a multiple of 7 exactly. How do you engineer that? The likelihood is obviously, rare. So, and by the way, if you take the 4 different divisions of this chapter, and there's 3 different speakers between angel, Joseph, and so forth, they all have similar package structures, always a multiple of 7. If you have 2 constraints, it's 1 chance in 49 of winning, 48 losing, right? If you have 3 constraints simultaneously operating, it's 7 cubed. 4, you have 1 chance in 2,407 of getting it correct just by accident, by randomness. If you have 9 rules, and that's what I gave you in the first little bit, that's 1 chance in 40 million of it coming out by chance. Okay?